My father told me not to come home for my mother's birthday, not because I did something wrong, not because I was sick or busy, but because my older sister was bringing her new boyfriend over, and apparently I was too complicated to explain. You know how your work always makes things awkward, he said. If you really insist on coming, then don't call me your father anymore. I didn't say a word. I just ended the call. 2 days later, the lights in their house went out. The water stopped running. The internet cut off. Turns out, when the daughter they dismissed stops paying the bills, silence becomes very loud. What would you do if your own family told you to stay away because your success made them uncomfortable? Have you ever felt like the invisible one, only good for fixing problems and never being celebrated? This is not a story about revenge in the way you might expect. It's a story about quiet power, about setting boundaries so strong they echo louder than any confrontation. If you've ever been the black sheep, the fixer, the forgotten one, this story is for you. Let me know in the comments. Have you ever walked away from family, not out of anger, but out of self-respect? And don't forget to subscribe to Sophia's Revenge Stories. We tell powerful stories every day, stories that don't just end in drama. They end in truth. My name is Evelyn Harper. I'm 32 years old and I live just outside of Boston. By most standards, I have a good life. I co-founded a biotech startup that's developing early detection tools for rare cancers. We just closed a multi-million-dollar funding round with investors from New York. My name is on the paperwork, my name is on the patents, but it's never been on the fridge at my parents' house. Growing up, I was the quiet one, the serious child, the one who didn't wear makeup, who brought books to birthday parties, who preferred coding over gossip. At home, that made me invisible. All the attention went to my older sister, Vanessa. Vanessa is 3 years older than me. She's beautiful, charismatic, the kind of woman who walks into a room and everyone turns to look. She was always the one in dance recitals, the one with perfect hair in family photos, the one who brought home boyfriends that my mother adored, even if those boyfriends never lasted longer than the seasons. Meanwhile, I was in the background, helping with chores, fixing the Wi-Fi, driving mom to her doctor's appointments, quietly wiring money when dad's business had a bad quarter. Never asking for thanks, never getting it either. For 2 years, I sent over $6,000 every month to cover their mortgage, utilities, groceries, and whatever Vanessa needed when she transitioned careers again. Nobody ever asked how I was doing. They just assumed I was fine. After all, I didn't complain. But there's something that happens when you make yourself too small for too long. People start believing that's your actual size. When I finally started the company, I didn't even tell my family. They wouldn't understand it anyway. The one person who knew was my Aunt Lorraine, my mom's younger sister, who always treated me like I mattered, even when no one else did. She called me her quiet storm, said I didn't need to be loud to change the weather. I guess I held on to that. Last month, when I told my assistant I'd be flying home early to help set up for my mother's birthday party, she smiled and said, "You're such a good daughter." I believed her. Until I got that call from my father. He said, "It's probably best if you don't come." When I asked why, his tone shifted. "Vanessa's bringing someone important, Liam. He's a CFO at a major firm. It's kind of a big deal. We don't want to make it awkward trying to explain your job and all that technical stuff. You know how your sister can get uncomfortable." I was stunned, not angry, not hurt, just stunned. Then came the line I won't ever forget. "If you really insist on coming, Evelyn, then don't call me your father anymore." There it was, the moment the ground beneath you vanishes, but somehow you don't fall. I sat in silence for a long time after that call. The only sound was the low hum of my refrigerator, the same one I bought for my parents 3 years ago. I remember that because my name's still on the warranty. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just logged into my bank account, pulled up the list of recurring transfers, and canceled all of them. Electricity, water, internet, cable, groceries, mortgage top-up, car payment, gone. In total, I'd wired $15,720 to them over the past 3 months alone. They had no idea. I'd always kept the help quiet, just like I'd kept the hurt. I didn't tell anyone what I did, not even my aunt. I just waited. waited to see how long it would take for the silence to become deafening. And when it finally did, I didn't say a word, because some stories don't begin with a scream. They begin with someone choosing not to show up anymore. The day of my mother's birthday arrived. I didn't text, I didn't call, I didn't post a memory or quote on social media. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty about it. That afternoon, I brewed a cup of chamomile tea, sat by the window of my apartment, and watched the rain roll down the glass. Boston was quiet that day. Fitting, by 6 p.m., the text messages started coming in. First from my mother, "Evelyn, the power is out again. Can you check what's going on?" Then from my father, "No internet. Your mother can't stream her show. Can you call the provider?" Then, almost like clockwork, Vanessa, "Why aren't the lights working? It's Mom's birthday." Not a single message said, "Hi." Not one asked how I was doing. They all assumed I was still the person who would fix everything. Quietly, without question, I didn't respond. Then came the phone calls, missed calls, voicemails, all variations of confusion and mild frustration. Nobody suspected a thing yet. They thought it was just a technical issue. Until the next morning. That's when it shifted. My father called me 7 times in a row. When I didn't pick up, he left a voicemail. I didn't listen to it, but I saved it. A memento, maybe, a reminder. That afternoon, while checking my work email, I noticed a familiar name in a subject line. Liam Prescott. It was an internal transfer approval notice. Liam was being reassigned from our New Jersey branch to our Boston headquarters, effective immediately. Department, Finance. Reporting directly to me. I blinked at the screen. It couldn't be the same Liam, the Liam my family had insisted on impressing. The Liam who was so important that I had to be excluded. I opened the HR attachment. There it was, his full name, his LinkedIn profile link, and his digital signature at the bottom of the onboarding paperwork. Liam Prescott, bachelor's degree in accounting, MBA, former CFO at a mid-size firm. The same man Vanessa was parading around as her power move. The man whose presence had cost me an invitation to my own mother's birthday. Now he was going to be my direct report. Fate, it seemed, had a sharp sense of humor. The following Monday, Liam walked into our headquarters lobby wearing a tailored suit and a polite, practiced smile. He held a coffee cup in one hand and a leather folio in the other. He didn't recognize me at first. Why would he? Vanessa had always made it sound like I was some tech recluse, hidden away in labs, incapable of normal conversation. But when I stepped into the conference room and introduced myself, his face shifted. He blinked once, twice, and then, "You're Evelyn Harper?" I smiled. "Yes. Welcome to Pacific Genomics, Liam. I'll be overseeing your transition." There was a pause, a long one. He glanced at the HR rep beside me, then back at me. His jaw tightened, just slightly. I didn't realize," he said quietly. "I know," I replied, handing him his welcome packet. "Most people don't." He nodded, the weight of the moment starting to settle in. I could tell he was rewinding every conversation he'd had with Vanessa, every description she'd given him of her strange little sister, and none of it lined up with the woman standing in front of him now. That afternoon, Liam sat through 3 onboarding meetings with the finance team. He was quiet, professional, focused. But during our one-on-one, as we discussed restructuring plans, he finally said, "I owe you an apology. Not for anything I did, but for everything I didn't know." I didn't respond. I just handed him the agenda for next quarter. He took it with both hands. That night, my phone buzzed again. Vanessa. This time, she was furious. "You knew he was coming. You planned this, didn't you? You made me look like an idiot." "Why are you doing this?" I didn't answer. Because I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't sabotaging her. I wasn't retaliating. I was simply existing. And for people like Vanessa, people who've built their worth on being the center of attention, nothing is more threatening than the person they've ignored all their lives. Finally being seen. 2 days later, I received a video call from my Aunt Lorraine. She rarely called without texting first, so when her name lit up my screen, I knew something was wrong. I answered, and her face appeared, tired, concerned, the background dimly lit behind her. "Evelyn," she said gently, "I've been hearing things. Your mom's been crying for 2 days. The house is a mess. Your dad's losing it. Vanessa's locked herself in her room. I stayed quiet. Aunt Lorraine hesitated. Then, "Sweetheart, what happened?" I exhaled. "They told me not to come to Mom's birthday," I said, voice calm but low. "Dad told me that if I insisted on showing up, I shouldn't call him my father anymore." Lorraine blinked. "He said that?" I nodded. "And after everything you've done for them," she muttered, her voice breaking. "Evelyn, no wonder you shut them out." "I didn't even shut them out," I said. "I just stopped funding their illusion." She looked at me for a long moment, and then something shifted. "Wait, Evelyn, hold on." She turned her phone to face the living room. My parents were sitting on the couch. Vanessa was pacing, all of them mid-argument. When they noticed the camera, Vanessa snapped. "Why is she on the call?" "She deserves to be part of this," Aunt Lorraine said firmly. "After what she did," my father barked. "She cut the power, left us in the dark, on your mother's birthday." I didn't flinch, but then I heard my mother's voice. "You didn't even try to fix it," she said, turning to Dad. "You just assumed she would." "She always does," he shouted. "Did," I corrected. "She always did." Their heads whipped toward the screen. "You're not the victim here," I said quietly. "You made it clear I wasn't welcome, so I stopped pretending I was." "Don't twist this," Vanessa cut in. "You're punishing us." "No," I said. "I'm just done performing." And then, like fate had perfect timing again, Liam walked into the room behind them, holding a glass of water. He paused, saw the video call. His eyes met mine. Then he turned to Vanessa's parents, my parents, and spoke clearly. "Did you know Evelyn is the co-founder of Pacific Genomics?" The room froze. He took a step closer, resting the glass gently on the table. "She's my direct supervisor. The one who approved my transfer here. The one you didn't want at the birthday party because, apparently, her job is too complicated to explain." No one spoke. Vanessa's mouth fell open, but no sound came out. My mother sat back in her seat, pale. My father's eyes narrowed, but even he couldn't spin fast enough to recover. Liam looked back at the screen. "I had no idea, Evelyn," he said. "But I'm glad I do now." Then he turned and walked away, leaving the silence in his wake. For once, they had no words. Not even Vanessa. That was the moment the curtain fell. The illusion broke, not because I raised my voice, not because I exposed secrets or demanded apologies, but because the truth, unspoken for so long, had finally introduced itself. And no one could look away. That call ended without goodbyes, just a black screen. And in that quiet, I realized something important. Sometimes, the point of no return isn't a fight. It's a realization, the realization that you don't need to keep proving yourself to people who've already decided who you are. That you're allowed to walk away, even from blood, when staying means betraying yourself. That silence, when earned, can be the loudest freedom you've ever known. The next morning, my inbox was full. 7 missed calls, 12 messages from Vanessa, 2 from my mother, 1, finally, from my father, and a short, direct email from Liam. Subject: apology and clarity. Evelyn, I had no idea about the full picture until yesterday. I'm genuinely sorry for the assumptions I made. What you built is incredible. You carry yourself with quiet strength, and that deserves more respect than you've ever received from the people who should have given it freely. I want you to know, I see you now. Liam? I didn't reply right away. Instead, I focused on work. There was a product launch approaching, lab tests to validate, a board meeting to finalize. And in the middle of it all, Liam showed up, every day, on time, prepared, professional. No awkward glances, no attempts at overcompensation. He kept his respect in his tone, not in his apologies. I appreciated that. Vanessa, on the other hand, was unraveling. Her messages grew desperate. You knew he worked for you, admit it. You humiliated me on purpose. Do you even care what you've done to this family? I ignored every word. But then, one message changed everything. Evelyn, please. He ended it. Liam broke up with me. He said he couldn't be in a relationship that was built on dismissing others. I need you to fix this. Talk to him. There it was. The entitlement. Not, can we talk? Not, I'm sorry for what I said to you. But fix it. Like I was still the person who handled the mess behind the scenes. I didn't reply, but Liam did. 2 days later, he sent another email, not to me, but to our entire leadership team. Effective next quarter, I'll be transitioning into a new role overseeing East Coast operations. I'd like to thank Evelyn Harper for her grace, discretion, and leadership during a difficult personal intersection. Her example has reminded me that professionalism is not about pretending things are fine. It's about honoring what is true without letting it consume the mission. He didn't name Vanessa. He didn't need to. That same night, Vanessa called me. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail anyway. You have to say something. He respects you. If you told him I was just overwhelmed, maybe he'd forgive me. Then she paused and added, I mean, you're his boss. He'd listen to you. I pressed delete. No response, no explanation, just deletion. Because that was the plan. Not revenge, not exposure, not some grand act of retribution, just boundaries, firm, unshakable, quiet. The kind that don't require justification. The kind that say, I'm not stepping into your fire just because you're cold. A week later, my parents showed up. Unannounced, I opened the door to find them standing there, my mother holding a store-bought pie, my father awkwardly holding his hat in both hands. They asked to come in. I let them. For 10 minutes, we sat in silence. Then my father cleared his throat. We wanted to say sorry, he began, for how we handled things, the birthday, the words. My mother added, Your sister's been a wreck. She's barely eating. Vanessa needs family right now. And then, which is why we're hoping you'd consider helping out again. Not as much as before, just $2,000 a month. While things stabilize, I stared at them. $2,000, like it was a subscription. Vanessa's struggling, my mother continued. You're doing well, your company's doing well. And what is Vanessa contributing? I asked. They blinked. Well, she's going through a hard time. I nodded slowly. Then here's my proposal, I said calmly. I'll resume helping. $2,000 a month. But only if Vanessa contributes $1,000, and you both sign a legal agreement stating that when you pass, the house and all assets will come to me. No contesting, no disputes. Their faces changed instantly. My father's jaw clenched. You want a contract? Yes, I replied. Because without one, you'll keep asking. And I'm done being the open wallet no one respects. My mother looked down. They left 15 minutes later, the pie untouched. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and watched the city lights from my window. I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I was simply finished. Not with them, but with being who they expected me to be. And for the first time in years, I slept through the night. Not because the noise was gone, but because I'd finally stopped answering to it. 3 days after my parents walked out of my apartment without saying a word about the contract, the group chat came back to life. Yes, there was a group chat. One I hadn't opened in almost 6 months. Family started by my mother, populated by long-winded texts from Vanessa, forwarded memes from Dad, and radio silence whenever I shared anything work-related. Now it was blowing up. Vanessa, are you happy now? He's gone. Everyone's looking at me like I'm pathetic. You could have said something. You could have saved this. Then my mother chimed in. Evelyn, this isn't like you. You've never been this cold. Then my father. I don't know what's gotten into you, but this isn't how we raised you. I stared at the screen. This wasn't like me. Was it so hard to believe that I could stop bending? That I could stop carrying everyone else's weight and decide for once to stand up straight? I typed one message, just one. I was never cold. I was just quiet. You all mistook that for permission. And I left the group. No exit announcement, no explanation. Just left. Later that night, my doorbell rang. It was Liam. He didn't come to talk about work, not directly anyway. He had a folder in his hand, a printed agenda, our Q3 planning document. Can we go over a few projections? He asked. I nodded. Let him in. We sat on opposite ends of my kitchen table. Halfway through the spreadsheet, he paused. I heard about your parents coming by, he said. I said nothing. I also heard you ask for a contract. Still nothing. Then he smiled, not mockingly, not condescendingly, just quiet approval. I wish I'd done that with my own family, he said. We didn't talk about Vanessa. We didn't need to. When he left, He thanked me. Not just for the meeting, but for the example. He said, "Most people don't know when to stop trying to earn love that isn't real." And I thought about that long after he walked out the door. A week passed, no calls, no messages. Then I got an email from a lawyer. Subject: Family Property Agreement. Evelyn, following your recent conversation with your parents, we are open to formalizing the proposed support arrangement, including the terms of inheritance you outlined. It was real, they were folding. I stared at the message for a long time, and I didn't answer, not right away. Not because I wanted to punish them, but because I wasn't sure I wanted anything more from them at all. That weekend, I went to the cafe near my apartment, the same one I'd been going to for years, the same one with the crooked picture frame by the counter and the quote painted on the wall. Home isn't always a place. Sometimes, it's a decision. I sat by the window with a cup of tea and reread old journal entries from when I was 19. When I used to write things like, "One day, they'll see me. One day, they'll understand. One day, I'll be enough." But that day never came from them. It came when I decided to stop waiting. The final text came from Vanessa, no punctuation, just raw, unfiltered panic. "He's seeing someone else." And a second message, "I hope you're happy." I didn't reply. Not because I didn't care, but because I finally did. I cared about me. That was the fallout. Not the collapse of a relationship, not the silence between siblings, not even the shift in power between daughter and parent. The real fallout was internal. The realization that I had outgrown every role they forced me into. The fixer, the provider, the invisible backbone. And they had no idea how to speak to the woman who stood in her place. No idea how to reach me. Not anymore. Because I wasn't standing in the shadow of their expectations. I wasn't asking for their approval. And I certainly wasn't apologizing for becoming whole without their permission. They say the truth sets you free. But what they don't tell you is, sometimes, freedom means walking away from people who'll never recognize your worth, until it stops serving them. It's been 4 months since I walked away. 4 months without group chats, without emergency phone calls, without monthly transfers quietly draining from my account. The silence isn't empty, it's full of peace, clarity, and space I didn't know I needed. I still live in the same apartment, still run the same company, still pass by the same cafe with the crooked picture frame and the soft yellow lights. Only now, when I sit by the window, I don't carry the weight of invisible expectations. I carry myself. Vanessa hasn't reached out again. My parents did sign the contract, but I never signed it back. Some things, once broken, aren't meant to be pieced together, especially if the glue is guilt. Liam and I still work together. There's no tension, no lingering awkwardness, just mutual respect. The kind that grows in the quiet where manipulation once tried to take root. I don't celebrate my birthday with my family anymore. This year, I spent it hiking alone in the Berkshires. No signal, no emails, just wind in the trees and my own breathing. For the first time, I felt like I wasn't running away from anything. I was simply walking toward myself. Here's what I've learned. If you spend your life trying to earn love from people who only see you as useful, you'll forget what love actually feels like. If you let guilt shape your boundaries, you'll always live in a house that someone else controls. And if you stay small to keep others comfortable, you'll never know the full weight of your own voice. I didn't get revenge. I got something better. I got free. What did you think of Evelyn's story? Have you ever had to walk away from a toxic family dynamic? Not out of anger, but out of self-respect. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from. And if you support Evelyn, vote number 4. If you're still hoping her family will change, vote number 8. Don't forget to subscribe to Sophia's Revenge Stories so you never miss a powerful new karma story every single day.